Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to the Educate to Trade podcast with me, Chris Pollock.
And I'm Z.
And today we're going to kind of run through what's been happening in markets over the past week, have a little deep dive into one or two trades that we've looked at, some that maybe have gone well, others that perhaps haven't, and why that may have been the case, and maybe have a glance forward for what's ahead of us for the week ahead. So, Z, why don't you get started off with Trump maybe over last weekend? That was a pretty good start to the week.
Yeah, so Trump brings in his tariffs. And then from there, we hear from world leaders from Canada. We hear the Mexican leaders sort of gave them their quotes, and then that came into China's sort of statements, and that really moved the markets.
Yeah, we had a big gap, didn't we, over the weekend? Even though there was rumours of it on the Friday, which saw that big sell-off in the stock market.
Oh yeah.
When it was confirmed, and Canada decided they were going to push back, gap lower. Big risk at the moment.
That's what happens. On Monday, we had sort of the pause on the tariffs. And what did that do? That filled the gaps consistently. So that was a really good setup for people that were trading S&P, NASDAQ, and also the Forex pairs like the GU and Euro USD.
Well, you say it was good news. That cost me money on Monday this week.
Fine. You lost money on Monday, I lost money on Thursday.
Yeah, you've got to be careful with Trump these days. He's very trigger happy with information. It's not at scheduled times. He's just keen to kind of get this information out there as and when he sees fit. We saw this again, didn't we, with Iran on Tuesday with the oil prices. Oh, yeah. He kind of stepped in there and said he's going to impose maximum tariffs. We saw, $2.50 on oil in 10 minutes?
Yeah, even
incredible. Yeah, it was unbelievable, the volatility that came through. And then again, more today.
More today. So we've come back to those days where it's 2015-16, and we have Trump's Twitter, his X profile.
Well, it's Truth Social now, unfortunately.
Truth Social is where
another new account we've had to sign up for.
and his commentary is really moving the markets. I think we are in a different market climate from the past 4 years. So as traders, we have to adjust our strategies, and we have to look for trends, and a lot of gap fills.
Yeah, this is gap risk over weekends is kind of something you will see time and time again this year. If Trump's going to mention, drop us some news over the weekends or even overnight. We've seen this, even gaps with the earnings a little bit this week as well. Absolutely. So there's going to be gaps all over the place this year. So do not hold positions over weekends unless you have incredibly wide stops. I'll be sleeping well Friday and Saturday out of all positions. Absolutely. Ready for Monday. It's the best way. That's why I don't like trading crypto. I don't want to be awake. I'm worrying about positions over the weekend. My aging brain needs a rest. And the indices, commodities, FX, bonds, they allow me to get that rest. But you're into crypto.
I am into crypto. I'm into Bitcoin, Bitcoin futures, and I have been trading meme coins on Solana ecosystem. So whilst we had gap fills being created on the weekends, I was trading that range. And it was stressful. So I do agree with you that Trump did create a gap, and we all stressed out over the weekend. A sleepless Sunday, a sleepless Monday.
Yeah, well, I need my sleep. I've got 2 young kids, so sleep is a premium for me. But yeah, let's talk maybe a bit more deep dive into some of the data that came out of this week. It's the first week of the month, so we're expecting some pretty hefty data releases on the first week of each month. That is ISM on Monday, ISM manufacturing, we had JOLTS, job openings data Tuesday, ISM services Wednesday, all leading up to the crescendo that was non-farm payrolls. Historically, the most volatile data event in history in the US. So we're interested. And what was most interesting today is we saw, the non-farm payroll headline figure was lower than expected, albeit by about 25,000, right? It wasn't a huge difference. But when the revisions came through 20, 30 seconds later, it was about 50,000 bumped onto the previous month. So net, it was a gain, right? The initial move, the initial wick, and we'll have a look probably at the chart in a moment, will show you that we had this big move one direction and then a snap back the other. It was also aided by the fact that the unemployment rate was down 4.1 expected, 4%. They have changed the rules on that a little bit this month, so that confuses things further. But then the average hourly earnings was up at 0.5. This is inflation's back. And Trump hasn't even put these tariffs on yet.
Put it through. He hasn't signed the papers yet on tariffs.
So we're not seeing that follow through from that yet. So that's what really interested me today with how these numbers effectively all came in hotter than expected. Typically, we've seen good news is bad news for the stock market.
Yes.
And yet, the S&P gathered some momentum and just ground higher. Even on the open, it pushed up to 6,100 on the SPX, albeit that's where the large gamma was, so it made sense to kind of target that level. And then bang, the little known University of Michigan data came out with 3, was worse than expected, but it does not move the market like that. That was not a University of Michigan move. Gold didn't move hardly, the dollar hardly moved, but yet I think everyone, all these positions that wanted to be on post NFP on the short side were waiting for, I don't know what, there was no liquidity in the market at that time, but bang, they hit it at 3, and lo and behold, we were 20 points lower in 30 seconds.
Chris, if you remember yesterday, we were in trades, and I think I let you went live know that I'm in some positions and I'm getting wicked out on each ways. So when we come to these sort of moments where Friday's coming, we have news, we had a sluggish move, right? From Wednesday to Thursday, Nasdaq was sluggish, S&P was sluggish, and I was getting wicked out on each position. But then comes Friday, today, and what happened? We really moved the market, and when liquidity came in, even something like your Michigan data really moved the markets.
Yeah. I mean, it shouldn't do that. The numbers weren't that bad, but there we go. Yeah, what was interesting with that data was, I mean, no one cares about this thing really. No. But if you think about the interesting thing about trading non-farm payrolls is that the Thursdays are normally really good, right? They're often the best day of the month in terms of volatility, aside from NFP Fridays. But the Thursday before non-farm payrolls is a trappy day, because if you're a big trader, you're not going to lump on in size on that trading day.
No.
If you're like a position trader, day trading is different, I appreciate, but some people swing, position, invest. Who's going to lump in on the Thursday before then when they know the stock market doesn't open until 2:30 UK time the following day and the data is out for NFP 1 hour prior to that? You might wake up in the morning and you're already offside 5% on the stock you bought. So the market just kind of slows down on that non-farm Thursday or pre-non-farm Thursday. A little heads up to any traders out there. If you want to take a day off any day of the week, any Thursday of the month, then maybe the Thursday before non-farm might not be a bad one to think about.
Absolutely. Chris, let's start getting to the charts.
Sure.
And give people some
lead the way.
Awesome. So currently on my screen here, we have the NASDAQ. And the interesting parts I found with the NASDAQ was we can use the word history repeats itself. And history really did repeat itself from last week's sort of Friday. So when we ended the 31st at 21,960, did we not revisit it today?
We did indeed.
We did, right?
Yeah.
So that is an important thing. So I had this thing charted up. And I was tracking the data for quite a little bit, and I sort of gave the prediction that we will reach these highs, and once we reach these highs, that's when the real movements happened. So this was me saying this on the weekend when I was trading Solana ecosystem tokens.
Yeah.
Could history repeat itself? And we, after the gap filled, can we see ourselves really repeat the short that we saw last Friday? So you got into this short, didn't you?
Yeah, I've been short today for a couple of reasons really. There's been some pretty good things out there. There's something on the order flow I'd like to show you on the S&P when you're done, but that's a beautiful kind of mirror image of last Friday. And I think this might be quite common in the market, especially when Trump's new. He has the risk of saying something that the markets potentially don't like around tariffs. It's all about tariffs at the moment. Any tariff talk, any negative tariff talk, is going to knock these stock markets. So do you really want to be holding long positions over the weekend? Super Bowl weekend in the US as well, right? I'm sure a few traders out there are going to go visit there. They're going to be at the game, or certainly a little bit hungover to be in on Monday. So who wants to be holding or having a bad day on Monday with big gaps with a hangover? Not me. Absolutely. So I think it makes sense that these Fridays we could see these sort of the froth taken out of the market a little bit, regardless of how good the week is. But this was an up week, right? From even with the gap, we still ended it, or looked to be ending it higher until 3 o'clock today.
Absolutely. So we started off the New York Open at around 21,960, right? We revisited 960, and then what did we do from there, Chris? We shorted. And we shorted and we shorted. And then you had the Michigan data at 3 p.m. And then what did we do from there? We shorted again. So history does repeat itself. And it does it in sort of, especially in those Trump cycles. When I was looking in previous data from 2015, 2014, 2013, I would find that it would do this thing where it would create a gap the previous week, gap would be filled, and then we would sort of make new highs and then short from there. So I'm seeing a repeat of that cycle in our current context here.
And we saw the gap fill done again the previous week with the deep seek in the video move. That gap was closed, albeit it took till Friday, but that gap got closed. So these gaps, when they're there, it becomes like a real target for the market, doesn't it?
Absolutely. So that was my sort of intake from there. The other advice I want to give new traders is when you do have a Thursday, a day before NFT, you should not be trading, because I got stuck in a few bad trades.
Well, I think you could trade, but it's got to be more scalpy.
Yes.
You've got to be trying to just get in, get out. You don't want to be trying to run something necessarily on that day, in my opinion. You're not going to get those follow-throughs in the way that you would normally expect on a Thursday. So
not at all.
if you can't scalp, you don't scalp, don't trade. Or maybe
Absolutely.
it's a good day to avoid taking risks.
It was a day to avoid, because after the sort of scalpy Thursdays we did get the setups on Friday. So that was my moves, and fortunately I got into some good trades today, and I was able to recover and learn from my mistakes. So that was me in the Nasdaq. The last sort of trade I took was a short here at 21,778, just at the data, and we were able to sort of take it down here up to 680, and I closed it. So that was me for Nasdaq. Would you like to talk about the S&P?
Yeah, just especially with regards to today, right? So we see the non-farm payroll data come in here at 1:30, the confusion, the wick, we are all over the place here. Then we got this move higher on the S&Ps. This is the ES contract, the S&P futures, the grind higher into the open. The 6100 is on the SPX, but this is what 6100 on the SPX looks like in the futures, around 20s. And then the Michigan data, 3 o'clock, bang, the whole thing went pop. This then made things very interesting, because for me this was all, as I mentioned, all to do with the numbers we had here. They just wanted to squeeze the life out of the shorts, empty the short book, and then get the move done without everyone, get them chasing. That created then a little bit of like a bear flag, I guess, that the kind of pattern traders would look at. And then Trump came through. So I was already targeting a little bit lower. I had some large gamma levels down here. In fact, I took some profits off on my last one that I just added on. But the thing I really want to talk about is in this particular candle, when we got that Trump news, talk about gaps on weekend to weekend. If you use order flow, you can really see where these orders are filled and where they are not. So if we want to zoom right in here on the S&P, we can see this big candle down on the Trump news. If we can zoom in, here we go. So this selling came through, pop, 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 pop. Sellers everywhere, except here. Except here. No trading done whatsoever. Where did the market snap back to, Z?
Back to that gap there.
Within one tick. A tick on the S&P is 0.25. Within 0.25, this was tagged. I had one go on the short here, and I didn't get my stop wide enough before it tagged me. I had another restrike it around the same level with a stop above this. And then we ran it down and got to those equal lows on the gammas again. So this was a nice trade for me today. I did have one extra go at it, which I would like to have done without. But this was another nice one that we've caught on the day. And honestly, if this, okay, we are looking like we might roll over here. So we can take these lows out and maybe get a breakdown, a retest. I think this number is around, on the S&Ps, we're looking around, the SPX is around 60.50, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, something around there. Then if we can kind of retest that, learning how to do the Mac here as you get a call from the most important woman in your life.
Exactly. Do ignore that.
So anyway, that's probably enough about the charts. We've kind of covered what we need to in there, I think. But yeah, that's really my day today. And what I found most interesting was that two things. One, the move down I did not think was an NFP, Michigan move. It was all a pent-up NFP move. And two, after that Trump move, look for these gaps in markets, even on those nano timescales. You've got no idea how often the market targets these sort of levels.
Absolutely. So yeah, we looked into Nasdaq today. We looked into S&P. We sort of triggered all these sort of Trump tariff debates, and we also showed the impact of how fundamentals do carry into technicals. And for new traders joining now, is the market the same, Chris, from 3 months ago?
Oh, no. No. This is opportunity here, especially if you understand news, you're able to get it. There's opportunities on Trump all over the place at the moment. It's a kind of a new, well, not that new. We had this in 2016 to 2020, but for anyone who hasn't been trading since then, or only began in 2020, you won't be aware of how this works with Trump. He is his own man, and regardless of your politics, he is very good news for day traders. He creates huge volatility for us. So from a trading perspective, there's a lot of opportunity for new traders. You've just got to learn to capture it. Hopefully we can help you a little bit on that journey. So should we, before we wrap up, kind of chat about what's coming on next week? Have you got anything on the pipeline for you? I've got a few things in mind. Earnings is kind of the end of the tail end of the earnings season coming through. So we're still in the video to come a month or so from now. But we have McDonald's, I believe, on Monday at midday. Home Depot, a really big company in the US, on the Dow Jones again, I think Tuesday at 11 a.m. This is all UK time. So that's going to be interesting. What else? CPI
data. CPI data comes out on Wednesday. We do have Fed Chair speaking and testifying post New York session. And then Thursday we have more news and CPI there. So yeah, we do have a couple of days where we do see ourselves, position ourselves for CPI data.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that.
Yep, I think it's going to be good. Be careful this Monday after non-farm. It can be quiet, especially post Super Bowl. And for those American fans out there, hope your team performs well. Any other business before we sign off, Steve?
Yeah, no. So for the crypto traders, I'd say the news does impact crypto as well. So when people are trading Bitcoin or Solanas and they're doing their meme coins, do follow the data, do follow the gap fills, because these things do affect the Bitcoin sort of rallies, pumps and dumps on Solana, and all other different assets. So these things, they're sort of the domino effect, what I'm learning. So yeah, just be aware. That's all I'll say.
Amazing. Well, thank you for joining us.
We've got some comments.
Oh, great. Excellent. We've got some
so we've got Blandy, who says Chris the goat. We got
thank you,
someone else
Alex.
is saying hi. Taylor, Z and Chris, have a great weekend.
Awesome.
All right, thank you, Taylor. Enjoy yourself.
And so that's our comments, our main comments for today.
Well, maybe next week, if you guys can bring a few questions that you want to ask about either the content we're talking about or something that went on in one of your trades for the week, we can try and put at least our slant on it. Hopefully, we'll know what's happened in there. And we can maybe enlighten you on how you might have done things differently, or how you could have maybe made even a little bit more on the trades that you did win on. So hopefully we'll hear from you and see you again next week. I've been Chris Pollock. You can get me at C Volume Profile on YouTube, Twitter, etc. And this is
Z the Monk on Instagram. It's your boy Z, and I hope everyone has a great Super Bowl weekend. And we have another great week ahead with more Trump tweets and social truths. Truth socials.
Can he call them truths? He does.
He fairly does.
All right, signing out. Have a good weekend.
You too. Take care.